Boys, you want to talk about a tale of two halves? I'll introduce you to Ohio State, Maryland. Buckeyes 37, Maryland 17. A front door cover? Tim May, the 40-year vet, Andy Backstrom, I'm Spencer Holbrook. On the very tail of Ohio State 37, Maryland 17. A lackluster performance by the Buckeyes, but also a dominant second half performance by the Buckeyes. Shut down Toledo Tagovailoa, looked terrible on offense, then looked good on offense. I don't know how to make this, Tim. Like, you've seen a lot of these games. What do you make of 37-17?
Well, I'm going to stick with your premise there. It was the worst of times. It was the best of times for the Ohio State offense, especially.
Is that Bill Shakespeare?
Yeah. No, that's somebody else of another genre. But I digress. Bottom line is Ohio State spots Maryland a 10-point lead.
Yep.
And then outscores Maryland 37-7.
Yeah.
So what did we watch here today? It was the worst of times. It was the best of times. It definitely was a tale of 1.5 halves and 2.5 halves.
Yeah, I mean, it was last year's game again, right? 10-10 at halftime. Last year was 13-10 at halftime. Maryland
33-30 in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Year.
Well, hey, it was in the second half.
Yeah.
You had a feeling like, when is Ohio State going to finally turn this around? You do have the Josh Proctor pick six, which at first was this first charge to this Ohio State team to give them a little bit of life, but the offense didn't get really going until the second half. And then, of course, they finish off Kyle McCord throwing for more than 300 yards, Marvin Harrison Jr. looking like he was never hurt in the first place and having 8 catches, 163 yards, and a touchdown. And so the box score looks really pretty, and people who haven't watched this game are going to look at it and be like, oh, Ohio State won by 20 against a Maryland team that could have been ranked. Oh, okay, no problem. But if you watch the game, like everyone did that's watching this video probably, you're like, there's some serious questions, which there are.
This is how wacky it was. Marvin Harrison Jr. caught a touchdown pass, and it was called back because the officials decided that Xavier Johnson went in motion, and then he turned, but he didn't actually go toward the line, but they called that illegal motion on that play. Brought it back, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. caught another touchdown pass within a matter of seconds.
Yep.
You know, that was a strange. That's a great microcosm of this game, in my opinion. Ohio State couldn't get it going, and then got it going, and then kind of got it going. You know what I mean? It was a crazy offensive game, but 37 points, 7 of those attributed definitely to the defense, and the return by Josh Proctor. You know, in the final analysis, it was a pretty good balanced game once they spotted them a 10-point lead.
I will counter-argue that, not to an argumentative mindset. I think we're all friends here. But
there.
You know, here's the deal, Tim. 37-17, 37-7 after a terrible start. But I mean, all in all, it was a bad day for Ohio State. Like, Ohio State put out, I think it's like D performance out there today. It was not good. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, even if it's a 20-point win. Like, you have how many penalties, Andy? I think 11?
11 penalties.
11 penalties. That cannot happen in 2 weeks against Penn State. You have 60-some rushing yards. A terrible rushing performance. That can't happen against Penn State. Your offensive line still doesn't look like it has anything sorted out from what we saw before the off week. You started slow. You struggled a little bit on 3rd and short. Your offense just looked very clunky. The defense rallied together and actually performed really well. Held Toledo Tagovailoa under 200 yards passing. Held this Maryland offense really in check, except for when the offense was spotting this Maryland team great possessions, and the special teams for Ohio State looked bad. Like, it looked bad. You had a bad snap on a punt that set up the opening 7. Ohio State didn't just spot Maryland 10 points. They gave Maryland 7 points to open this game. And like,
Maryland gave it right back with it.
I know that, but that's what Ohio State's supposed to do. And like this, I just
see. Here's the thing.
That was a bad first half. Like a bad
as
first
Ryan
half.
Day said in the post game, you check these boxes off of what you want. One of the things you definitely want is a fast start, and that was anything but a fast start by really the offense or the defense. But then they did get it going. See, I judge things in the totality because this is a 60-minute game, and Ohio State, like I said, I'm just going by my judgment, outscores Maryland 37-7 after Maryland took a 10-point lead. That's pretty good too.
I agree.
You just want to argue.
No, a win is way better
than
than a loss. But if you're not alarmed by what you saw out here today,
they won by 20 points.
Yeah,
the line was 19 or 18.
There's some alarm bells going off, Andy. I'm a little concerned about some things I saw today.
Yeah, they won by 20, and again, like I'm thinking about week 1 against Indiana, they also win by 20, and we also came away from that game with a lot of questions. Kyle McCord, life comes at you fast, right? You're on top of the world. You have the biggest drive ever, at least in his career, against Notre Dame, and all the fans seem to start to like see what he could be, and he still can be a great quarterback for this team. Terrible start for him today. I believe he was 2 of 7 to start this game. Finished strong, like 19 of 29. Again, as I mentioned, like over 300 yards, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And I asked him after the game, I was like, Kyle, you're proven to be an accurate quarterback. We saw that in 3rd and 4th down against Notre Dame, right? What are the accuracy struggles early on in games? Because that was also a problem against Notre Dame. He said, you know, I just can't be overthinking things. I can't be trying to make the big play early. You know, I got to take what's there. And I think that that's for this whole offense overall. And that goes for Ryan Day, too, as a play caller. Like, you don't need to try to get everything off your checklist. You don't need to prove that you can run the ball on the first drive. Like, there are a time and place for certain things, but they don't need to accomplish everything on the first drive.
Like with Cal McCord, though, I asked Ryan about it. He seemed just a beat behind in the first half, especially. You know, he has Marvin Harrison Jr. streaking down the field 5-8 yards behind anybody. The ball's thrown short because he kind of didn't make, you know, you're watching him, he kind of didn't make up his mind, and then it kind of went out of range. Marvin Harrison Jr. stops, catches the ball. Same thing with the Julian Fleming wide open play down here on the other end, down on the north end. Should have been a touchdown, but the ball was thrown just a beat behind, and Julian Fleming makes a sliding catch on it. But it kind of finally got greased. You know, the offense did get greased. I mean, the pass he threw Marvin Harrison Jr. right down here to the 29-yard line, right to your left there, Anders. I mean, Andy. Didn't mean to let that out of the bag.
His name is Anders.
That was a beautiful throw and catch. Agreed?
Yeah.
And then the head coach gets penalized 15 yards for being on the field, Ryan Day, who will be running laps. So with everybody else who got penalized today. Right. So that's how wacky this game was.
But here's the thing: like the Ohio State offense it's infuriating right now. 2 weeks ago against Notre Dame, you're in 3rd and 19 because of your own decisions to get into a 3rd and 19. Today, you're in a 2nd and 33 or whatever because you just can't block anybody. Kyle McCord takes an 18-yard sack and then you get a penalty to put yourself at 2nd and 33. Luckily, you have football god on the field, Marvin Harrison Jr. to reel in an insane catch and Kyle McCord to throw a dime, but it doesn't need to be in that position. You don't have to. Don't put yourself in position to be Superman.
So what's the fix?
Hold on a second. Don't put yourself in position to be Superman if you don't have to.
Superman.
This offense, I told Andy during the game, the running game makes everything, even the touchdowns, they make it look difficult. And I don't know what the fix is right now. But sometimes this offense in general makes things look so difficult. Yeah, you got a touchdown, but how'd you do it? There's a 15-yard penalty built into that drive. You got a hold, and you came back because it was 2nd and 18. You still were able to capitalize. Like, everything this offense does right now makes it look difficult, even in scoring 30.
Here's what I would counter. Yeah, he did make it look difficult today. I agree. There were a couple times when they made it look really easy also. But what separates Ohio State in this offense from many others is they can make it look difficult and then finally still get it done.
Well,
I mean, because they have the firepower to finally get it done when they finally block almost everybody. You know, when they finally don't get a penalty. Some of them justified, some not. I mean, these are wrinkles they're trying to smooth out on this football team right now.
Yeah.
It has not been, as we talked about many times, Notre Dame, they left points on the field. I mean, Kyle McCord's the first to tell you that. I mean, that game should not have been as close as it ended up being with Notre Dame walking around and some of its, former coach saying they dominated the game, they won the game. Well, no, they didn't. The final score was 17-14. Here it was 37-17. When Ohio State finally got its act together on both sides of the ball, they dominated this game.
I
think
you
can't forget the warts.
No, and the problem with all of that is you can make it look difficult and still do really well against Maryland. And you can probably make it look extremely difficult.
Maryland was undefeated coming into this game and was a better team than it was a year ago, in my opinion. I'm throwing that out there. I'm not going to just dismiss Maryland like they're crab cakes.
I'm not either, but you can make it look difficult against Maryland. You can make it look difficult against Purdue. If you make it look difficult against Penn State on this field, you will lose. That's the bottom line.
Well, but if you defensively you make it look difficult for Penn State, maybe you don't lose.
Well,
I think there's two sides of the coin, right? On one hand, the offense needs to stay ahead of the sticks, and that's the problem with this offense right now. They're getting in 3rd and 10s, they're getting in 3rd and 8s, 2nd and 33s, and for this offense, Ryan Day said it, like, they got to stay on schedule, and they're not doing that with the run game. He was asked about, like, hey, are there going to be personnel changes on this offensive line? He didn't say we're sticking with these 5. He said, I need to watch the tape and see. And I know that's kind of a standard coach speak answer, but he could have said, no, we're staying with these 5. These 5 give us the best chance to win. He didn't say that, so that's something to note. Also, I'll mention, on the flip side, to play the devil's advocate, and I guess go to more what Tim's saying, like, the thing about this Ohio State team is they're not panicking, and that was the message today. And look, a lot of teams in this country would have lost this game. It's 10-10 at halftime. Maybe you don't even bounce back. Maybe you don't even get the Josh Proctor pick 6. Maybe you go down 17-0. Maryland could have had 24 points in the first half. They didn't, because this defense, time and time again, makes timely stops. And that's the difference between this defense
great example.
and the past couple of years of this defense. And I think that is what makes this team still a contender, even to win it all. Because when you have a defense that can continuously do that week after week, and I know every week's a referendum, but they keep passing the test.
Yes.
And eventually this offense, I believe, will get things sorted out. As herky-jerky as it is right now, I do think that not panicking and resulting in a 20-point win after as bad as it was today is something to note.
Yeah.
The voice of reason, ladies and gentlemen.
Two things definitely have to get fixed in this offense. But see, after a penalty happens, you can't do anything about that. You know, it has happened. And that's what I'm saying. This offense has as much capability as any offense in the country to come back from that kind of adversity. But the penalties have got to stop. The open areas for guys to just suddenly just rush through occasionally when they're not picked up, that has got to stop in some form or fashion. And then the other thing that's really got to get going is a consistent running game. And I like, personally, I know what Ryan Day and them are going after there. The reason they kept trying to run the ball is because they got to get it going. You got to get it going, and it was herky-jerky again today. But then on top of that, like Spence is talking about, man, if you can go down the field and throw 5 passes and score a touchdown, do that.
Do it.
Then work on the running game. I mean, I'm not sure that wasn't kind of their idea from the get-go today, but things didn't work out. That first drive, that first possession was like they had just rolled out of bed at the Blackwell and were, going down for breakfast. And some missed the elevator.
Yeah, I mean, and then
so that gets you off to that bad start.
You're just beating your head against the wall with the running game, and then Lathan Ransom gets an interception, and you get a chance to go up and really put this game out of reach. Yep. And what happens? You throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. Then you throw the ball to Emeka Ibuka. Then you throw the ball to Julian Fleming. 3 straight completions.
First and goal.
And then what does that do for your running game? It opens up a chance to pitch it out to Chip Trainum, to go to the wide side and score a touchdown. The pass can set up the run. And I'm not sure if Ohio State is right now fully understanding what its passing game can do for its running game.
They're dictating something though in their running game that's tipping people, man. They need to figure it out.
We're going to have a lot of time to figure it out because we're going to rewatch the game on Sunday. We got to watch the film, folks. We'll get back to you. Got to watch the film, do a little bit more of that with the film study, see what happened there. If I sound like Ryan Day, sorry guys. Tim May, the 40-year vet, he's going to get back to work. Andy Backstrom, he's going to get back to work. Spencer Holbrook, that's me. I'm going to get back to work too. In the aftermath of Ohio State 37, Maryland 17, it was not pretty, to say the least. But the old ball coach Urban Meyer once said, best thing about going 5-0, Tim?
Chance to go 6-0. Matter of fact, I just reminded him he hasn't tweeted that yet. And by the way, Ohio State's situation right now beats the heck out of what Texas is dealing with as we speak.
Yeah, they might jump them.
They should. They got beat. Texas got beat. So.
Buckeyes find a way to win, and I think that's important. This team is still growing, finding its way. That 2014 team wasn't perfect, guys, and
no,
that's important
to
know.
I had met Wilhelm on my podcast, and we were talking about that very thing. We were talking about 2002, how many close games there were in that season. That is not the team you hold up and go, wow, from the standpoint of this team dominated people. It didn't dominate 5 or 6 teams, but it found ways to win. This team, just like at Notre Dame today, they got their act together in the second half after that first drive by Maryland in the second half. Maryland never scored again. So they got their act together offensively and defensively in the second half, and I think that says a lot about this football team and what Ryan Day said about not panicking. But you know what? Like you just said, like you indicated, they need to get into some situations where they don't never have to even have a chance to panic.
Exactly, and I think that's where the hang-up is. That's where the clunkiness comes in, and that's where the Buckeyes go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how to fix things, because 14 days from now, Penn State will be in this building, and that's a big one.
Hey, they're traveling to Purdue next.
Oh, I'm well aware. They got to go to West Lafayette, the House of Horrors itself.
Pothole starts with a P, and so does Purdue.
Jeez. All right, well, we'll let you guys sit on that one for another week until we get over to Purdue. Until then, we're going to get back to work. In the aftermath, again, of Ohio State 37, Maryland 17, Lettermen Row will be back in this very building on Monday for the Monday after Ohio State, Maryland. Until then, we'll see you guys at lettermenrow.com, where you can get all the coverage for $1 for 1 month. From there, we'll talk about pricing. Tim May, the 40-year vet. Andy Backstrom. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys back in here on Monday.